Good morning, Debbie. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And it's good afternoon here from the UK. So it's 4
Oh,
p.m.
very good. And good morning to everybody who's joining us this morning. We have Marie and Diane and Sarah and a couple other people. So it is good to have all of you here with us this morning to visit and be taught by Miss Debbie Nolan. You want to share your business with us a little bit, Debbie, and let us get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction there. So I am Debbie Nolan. As I've just said, I'm based in the UK. My business is called the Business Success Company, and I work in different areas supporting mainly women. It's mainly women, my audience and my clients. There's the odd young man or gentleman that might come on. But at the moment in the UK, we are focusing on our week, which is the Mental Health Awareness Week. So I'm coming on today to talk more about mental health alignment and, busy lifestyles with mumpreneurs, independent women. But my actual business covers many areas. So I help educators leave education and go into full-time employment for themselves. I help in large corporates where I might go in and do some training with the training needs that they have. So, but today I think I really would like to focus on the mental health awareness, and I'm not sure what dates they may have in the countries that all you people are back from, but here in the UK it's very big. So I'd like to talk about
Very
that
good.
today.
Very good. So I was actually sitting on the porch with my sister yesterday and talking about that. Now she's just moved here from Florida, and it's not a large town for Florida, but it's way larger than where we are. But of course, the rat race and the hustle and bustle and getting out and just being a part of traffic and life in the outside world. And she actually works from home. And
Hmm.
so uh, when she leaves her home, it's kind of her getaway from work, but then she's walking into stress
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just so many people and so much going on, and she's so disconnected from it during the regular day. But she
Hmm.
comes here and she just loves it. Now, I hear people talk about they get done working and they need to take a break and they need to just go relax for an hour, go find their vibe again. And I feel so blessed that I live on a farm, and so I see maybe 12 cars a day pass my house. Um, but when I need to relax, I can just go out and hop in a porch swing and swing. That doesn't fill the solopreneur bit,
Yeah.
but I find that being involved in lots of networking online is helpful with that. But
Hmm.
it's such a blessing to be able just to get out, step outside and get inside nature. I feel like that really helps me gain clarity and get my grounding back and my footing back. And I can
Hmm.
do it so easily. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to wait till I'm off work. I don't, I can just step outside and do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a luxury. That's something we pay a lot of money for. I've just been, while talking to you, I've just counted 15 cars that have just gone past me and two buses. So when we want nature, I do live in a nice area in London on the outskirts, but we need to walk or we have to pay quite a bit to go and get the lifestyle that you have. So for me, and for what we're doing this week is to bring things into people that they can do in a natural place, which is their home, or in an arena that they can go to using a resource. Which at the moment is I've got a free resource at the moment, which is a confidence blueprint, which you could work through and start to realign, what you do and how you're doing it, and then start recognizing some of those signs. So as you just said, Colleen, when you want to go outside and sit in your sling, I think you called it a sling, then you've got that luxury. Some people have to go internally and look at how they're going to relax their body and their mind without those luxuries that you have. So it's,
And
whether
I
you're in a
think
career, you've raised a family, or just, hit a point of reflection, you're not starting over, you're already winning. You just need to know how to move some of the things that you're already doing into a space where you reflect on it yourself and that you're strong and healthy enough to continue with that. So that's something that's great.
Well, I'm eager to jump into what you're going to teach us. I noticed too that you had also mentioned community. And so are you, and you don't have to give away all your secrets right now, but are there ways that we can interact with our community to get the peace and the connection that we need? even if it's a virtual community, you know.
Yeah. I believe that I think these, the podcasts that we offer, our networks that we offer, and in our groups that we have, having that network, particularly for people who might be working independently, solopreneurs, they're out, yourself, where you're based is great, but sometimes you need that human interaction, whether it now be virtually or whether it be in person. I believe that, communication is just how we need as a human being. We need that human reinforcement to say you're doing okay, or you're not quite right at the moment, how can I help? And without having the tools to recognize it, it's very difficult for you to know what you need. So communication, and in the toolkits that I have, they work very much on your mindset of how to recognize when you do need some support. It may not be deep support, but I have supported some people who, have recognized deeply that they need to have more in-depth and professional help. Majority of clients I have, it's just mindset. And the biggest one at the moment I'm dealing with is money mindset, and this thing about not being worthy of earning money for some unknown reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm working quite a lot with that at the moment. So for community, for me, is working on yourself independently and then reaching out to others, because once you start working on your inner self, then you can start recognizing that in other people and reaching out to them and being that kind person that offers them a smile, offers them their own personal encouragement on that. So
That's interesting, because I find that even in our personal lives and in our families, it's the same way, that when we know that we're lacking, when we first, number one, recognize that we're lacking, or that we are not our very best self right at that moment. And when we take a minute to step back and do what we need to reconnect with our best self,
yeah,
it does really truly make us aware of where the people around us are, and maybe how we can help them with that same process, that same thought process, the same actions, whatever it is that we had to do to make our own adjustments within ourselves. I think that we can bring that to our loved ones, just anybody that we communicate with. And I really think that this is such a blessing that we're able to do so much of this virtually too. I know it's not always the same, and it doesn't take the place of having actual human contact, but it certainly helps. It certainly helps. I think the first 9 months first year that 15 months that I was in this business, I was not doing networking. If I did anything on video, it was just live teaching, but it wasn't interacting. And so what difference the virtual networking makes, just being able to bounce ideas off each other and being able to say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or whatever it is, to have, and that's a little bit different kind of support group that I think most of us have found online than just our regular networking. But I feel like that's a real blessing too.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that, with people, we, I don't know if they've got the same words over in America, but a slump. We have something called a slump here. So it's when you recognize, that you may be going into a slump, and identifying what you can do. So, you've got the post-high crash, which is after pouring excitement and focus, you get very hyped up and you're very happy about everything. And then it's that down afterwards. It's, what do I do with it? We've all got those highs, maybe a party, maybe a birthday, but it's recognizing, the slump afterwards. And that could be anything. I mean, I'm just using party as an example, but it could be a new job. People have gone into employment and they've, been for the interviews. They've been through 3, 4, 5 sometimes interviews, and then found that they've gone in and it's not up to their expectations of what they were sold. So there's that slump. So it's like recognizing, what do I do now? And am I brave enough to say this isn't right for me, or do I just continue on? So it's those type of things that we want to look at. And then we've got the prolonged stagnancy, which is where there's little action, excitement, or forward motivation. It's that type of thing where you get stuck in a rut and you're just continually doing the same thing over and over again, and not having the brave internal sort of excitement to say, I'm better than this, I can do more than this, and recognizing that that's where you might need to go. And then there's also the burnout from going at full speed. You know, that's sort of like that, you know, fight or flight. You've got to do it all. You've got to get it done today. You've got to get all those things done without recognizing that time management and strategy and working through what you can do at a good rate rather than, you know, trying to rush things, because, you know, on reflection, sometimes rushing things too quickly means that you have to go back and do it again, which then becomes frustrating, then becomes more difficult, and then you become, you know, sort of like internally upset with yourself. And that's something we don't, you know, we can avoid. We really can avoid it. Scarcity mindset is one which, you know, in the women's world, we get blamed, you know,
Hi,
for.
Colin.
There you go.
Hi, Colin.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's better, isn't it? Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Debbie, go ahead.
Don't worry. Okay. The scarcity mindset, you know, where you've got things that, you know, you're feeling that you haven't got enough in you, you haven't got enough behind you, enough energy to do things. And it's about that balance, you know, getting things in a balance. And a lot of this leads to sleep deprivation. So I'm sure that everybody on this call at some point in their life has suffered with sleep deprivation, you know, taking those afternoon naps, which are great sometimes, but when they become, you know, a daily existence and you're waking up at a, you know, at an unnecessary time in the middle of the night because your body's not regulated, it's about these slumps that you need to find what they are, and then working through the workbooks that I've got is then you can identify, you know, how to have that happy balance. There is so many I can go into, you know, the short term, the long term. There are times when we are naturally going to find that we're exhausted, you know, through one thing or another, but it's just how we deal with our daily life, our daily maintenance to, you know, to compensate so that we're able to go to the functions. We're not, you know, pulling a cover or a duvet over our head saying I can't go. You know, it's about excuse me, it's about having that energy to do those things. I hope that helped. Sorry.
I think too that one of the things that you said that resonated with me was that when you're not feeling brave, right? And I found that for me, a backup to that is, or my first emergency reach out is to surround myself with women that are the same brave as me when they are brave.
Mm.
And so just like the keys on a piano, sometimes some will be up, some will be down, but we all understand that. And so when I'm lacking in my brave, I know that Sarah's brave is strong enough to carry me. And I can reach out to Sarah and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or just not feeling it today, or whatever that might be, right? But I've surrounded myself with women who have a brave that's strong enough that they can share. And it's funny that you said that, because I just made a post last week that said, make sure your brave is strong enough that other women can use it while they find their own. And I think as women, we really have to do that. We have to provide that for each other. And it takes some time. I think it took me a while, and maybe I'm not involved, but it took me a while to find my tribe, you know, my handful of women that I knew were strong enough that we could fortify each other in our times of need, and rely on each other and just have daily connections. And I can just say sometimes, hey, Sarah, are you handy, you know, and reach out to her. Or I have a few other girls, you know, I can do that with, and just get some feedback on whatever I'm doing, or a little bit of help, or some mindset shift, you know, and that's very helpful.
Yeah. You know, there are people who can do that quite naturally, you know, and recognize it, but it's those that I'm trying to reach out to who haven't had yet that recognition that that's the way that is a real support network, is that we're all vulnerable, all of us. We've all got, you know, some things that we've dealt with. We've got people that we can trust, and I, you know, find your tribe, you know, I've heard that many times, but, you know, you can count on one hand that the people that you really are your go-to people for deep, you know, deep issues. But there are also those ones that, you know, you can reach out to that, you know, just going to make you smile, you know, just hearing their voice, or just, you know, leaving them a voice note so they come back to you with a voice note, just cheers your day, you know, just having those things. But it's those that, one, either don't recognize how supportive and how important that is that people just, they'll stream along. I'm fine. Most people, if you ask them, how are you, will respond,
Right.
yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. When you recognize the your own vulnerabilities, and you know that what your own needs are, you'll start to recognize that I'm fine might be a high pitch fine, it might be a low pitch fine. Then you'll understand that actually they're not fine, and that secondary questioning, okay, so what's going on, will get them out of maybe that slump that they're in. You don't need to know everything that's going on, but when you recognize in yourself what your needs are, you can recognize what others are. And a network, to me, and it is a network of women, is the most important thing that gets me through the day. I message. I have two people every morning who message me, or I message them, depending on who gets on the phone first. Just a really positive reinforcement for the day. How are you? And then there are others that I may not hear from for 2 or 3 months. But listen, when I get that call, or when I get that message, it does nothing but make me smile. And it's having that network and those people that you recognize are there for you, and you can be there for them. So it's that balance as well. But it's strength. It's strength in knowing what your own vulnerabilities are, and what your own strengths are really important to me. Very important.
And I think it's unfortunate that one of the real downfalls of being in the virtual world is that it's easy for people to walk away. We find that all the time with different coaches, different things like that. But I think that really plays into making it harder to make these connections that are deep, because how many times have we been burned? I personally, and I'm just one person out of billions, right? And I've had 4 different coaches or mentors that have used my content to go on and build their business.
Yeah.
And that's not appropriate. You know what I mean? So, and that's just 4 for me. And so, I think it's very interesting that you have to keep putting yourself out there, because unfortunately there isn't somebody else that can put you out there.
No.
You have to keep putting yourself out there. Even when people are inclusive and they invite you to things, you still have to put yourself out there so that you can learn to make those connections. And my thing is too, is like, I've heard people say too, oh, I'm fine. And I say, there's so much more to life than fine. So how can we help you get better than fine?
Yeah. I agree.
Because fine is so mediocre. It just is. And that's not where we want to be. I don't believe for a second that anybody wakes up and says they want to be fine. I think on my darkest days, maybe when I lost some family members or something, then yeah, I just wanted to get through and I just wanted to be fine. But that's in the very darkest days. That's not your everyday. I think your everyday needs to be scads higher than fine.
Yeah. Let's start with
if anybody has anything to add, please do.
Me.
Anybody.
Oh, okay.
I know Sarah works a lot with this kind of thing too. So, where do you suggest, Debbie, if someone is just, this is a lot about community. You do have to pull people in, and we as women are nurturing by nature, and we want to pull others in and buoy them up, right? But where do you suggest, if you're on the flip side of that and you're struggling to make those connections, how do you suggest they start? Where do you suggest they start?
Depending on, in the UK here, we have, local community network sessions. So in our local area, we'll have a newsletter which says, they'll have a coffee morning and it could be anything for, different subjects. So there might be one for young mums. There'll be a network. There'll be a knitter and a natter. So people go along to a knitting group. I can't knit, so I can never go unless I make the coffee. But there are a lot of social groups, but it's just you have to find them. So in every area there will be a network, and volunteering is a huge thing. You can pick up so many sort of new connections, and if it's something that you have aligned to. So on Saturday this week in the UK, I volunteer every year for the Moonwalk, which is the breast cancer charity, and they walk through London, a marathon. So but I don't do the walk. I'm not able to do the walk, but I volunteer every year. So for me, every time I go, I make connections, and those connections, you stay in touch. You might chat over social media, but then after that, it's making that effort. Or do you want to meet up for a coffee, or do you want to do this? You have to give some time to it. You can't just expect people to come to you anymore. It has to be on, a mutual thing. So my suggestion would be firstly to start in local areas where you haven't got to go very far, and then see what's available. The local church near us, and some people may not worship, but it doesn't have to be about going to a church or a religious place. It just sometimes is, that's the hall where they have things, so therefore it's a venue to go to. So for me, those groups are generally people that are there for the same reason. So any support group, someone's going to be there. The young mums, there might be a bereavement council one, but there's always going to be something that you can go to. And volunteering, for me, there are so many different charities that need that support, and if you can find one that you're passionate about, then everybody there is passionate, so therefore you've already got something in common. So that's a way.
That's really good. That's really good advice. Sarah, do you guys have things like that where you're from?
We do, mainly because we are a retiree community, so we have a lot of retired people here, and if there's a club for everything, and they have English walking in the sea, like, I don't know what you call it, but they put on their wetsuits and they just walk on the water, in the water, not on. Let's not get carried away here. And for me, I agree. I volunteer. Fridays, I don't work on my business. I volunteer morning and afternoon. And it is true. We meet amazing people, and that's kind of my social time. I spend a lot of time alone. I have my family, of course, but I'm alone all day working here. And then I see people online, which is awesome, but it's different, right? Yeah. And I do need to get out of here, and I do get out on Fridays. I do my volunteering in the morning and then at the end of the day again, and it's absolutely life-changing. So I would always recommend, if you don't know where to start as well, start with volunteering somewhere. The library, I volunteer with handicapped people. Adults, young adults, and not so young adults, and I help them to learn how to write their names, and and there's a whole community around them. And I also volunteer with after school kids to help them out, and again, it's a different community, but they're there, and it just for my mind, it does wonders, because I do the press sometimes.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with everything that Debbie's saying. It's absolutely necessary, I would say, to find something you're passionate about and just go for it.
I believe, Sarah, as well, that volunteering for charities as well, it's needed. We know that there's always that support, but it also makes you feel that you're giving something back. And it makes, whenever I volunteer for this, and I do volunteer for some other things as well, I do believe that at the time it makes me have that feel good factor, about myself and about my own core, and therefore it makes me happier. And then if I can be happy, I can make other people happy. And is that how you feel when you've done your volunteering on the Friday?
I absolutely agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's that dopamine. I don't know. It's just that, you're giving back, and you are.
Would you like a potato waffle?
No, thanks.
Put in at the same time I normally put in. Nice.
Somebody's talking.
It's Debbie on a podcast.
On a podcast. It's not. That's not very.
And yes, sorry, I absolutely agree with that, and it makes us feel good, and the people are really appreciative of you showing up, because help is needed, like Debbie is saying. Yes, these associations, they don't have the funds, sometimes they don't have the money to give that extra support, and that's one of the ways they can do it. So it's feel good all around, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Very good. Well, I'm kind of jealous of you guys because we don't have that here. So not that we don't have it in the United States, we absolutely do. In other places I've lived in the United States, we've had it, but here where I am now, we're very far away from anything. So
Yeah.
it would take me an hour to get to a town that would have anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
When
we had in the UK with COVID, what we had something called Good Samaritans, and I volunteered for that. So it was at one point it was going and collecting say prescription drugs from the pharmacy, taking it to the people. But there was also and we still do it is calling vulnerable people. So people that were in isolation on their own, they had family that were too far away, or they had no family. They were just in isolation. That we would it was called Good Samaritan, and we would call them, and you'd have set slots just to give them a call and chat to them over the telephone. And that was something that we had COVID pandemic 5 years ago, but they've carried it on because it is so good. So it's something maybe those that are remote might be able to do, because then you're reaching out to somebody that's sometimes doesn't have anybody call them. They just don't have anyone in their life that are near enough, or they're too busy. And we see this sometimes with vulnerable neighbours we might have, that are older, that their families are all busy at work all week, and that they're at home on their own. So that's maybe something that those that aren't able to go somewhere could do and get some positivity from.
That's interesting, because I have seen a thing online which I thought was just odd. It's like a Rent-A-Friend where you can, those are paid services that you can do where you're calling.
Right.
Like that. That's interesting. But I think for here, local, like we just don't have hardly anything like that. When we did have activities and things that needed volunteers at, it was usually activities that I put on in town. Like when I owned my store, I would put on big activities downtown, and we would need volunteers to help pull things together for that. But they just, since I sold my store and started working at home, they just don't have activities like that downtown anymore. So it's interesting. Okay, moving on. What else do you have to share with us, Miss Debbie?
So really it's a question for everybody, is about their own mindset. So if anyone wanted to share where they are, people are a little bit I'm fine. So by a poll here, who's fine, who's good, where are we with the people that are on here? So I will say to you that most mornings I get up, I feel good. There's some mornings I get up and I have to go into London, into the middle of it, and I'm not feeling so good. So, as I said earlier, we've got really lovely sunny weather here, and everyone's happier in the sunshine.
Right.
So it's about looking at when we've got the positives, is how do we harvest those so that when we've got the negatives, that we can call on those within us to make us better. I've got a meditation bundle, so I'm not sure if people are into meditating or not, but it's not as we say woo woo. It is one that that you can do in your own home. I do it, so it's and I was completely against all of these things at the beginning, but it helps me mentally to work out how I deal with things. And Colleen, as you said, in the online world, sometimes we are on our own, and sometimes we need to, we haven't got a boss. We haven't got someone that's going to tell us off if we haven't done things at the end of the day. We write our own strategies, we write our own diaries, and we are responsible for how we feel at all times. So I think that for me, when I get my mindset in the right place, it means then I've got a structure, and I know then that I can call upon what I need to do to get things done, because I'm responsible to myself. And if I don't do that, then I used to let time fly. It's always, as someone says, always on the long finger, I'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. So for me, is setting myself up every day into a mental zone of what I'm doing for that day really supports what I do. And it means that when I go, when I finish at the end of the day, the list has been ticked off, and I do have a list. the list has been ticked off, but I feel fulfilled. And within there, I've time blocked so that I've got time to do what I need to do for my business and what I need to do for my clients, and also what, creating new resources, etc. But I've also built time in there so that I touch base with me, make sure my health is okay, my wellness is okay, touch base with friends, and some are daily, as I've said to you earlier. Some of them aren't. They're on a list of must touch base with, X, Y, or Z, for whatever. And if Sarah's on, my Sarah, because she said she was coming on, you're getting a call after this because I've been trying to chase you down, girly. So for me, meditation is a key thing. And as I said, I've got a nice little bundle offer for that, which is
Make sure you drop
simple.
that in the chat.
I'll pop them in the chat. I'll pop the resources in the chat. There's a free resource, which is the Confidence Blueprint. And then there's two further ones. Now, I've looked at the prices. In the UK is £9. In US, it's $12, and the meditation bundle is 17 or 23 US dollars. Those are easily downloadable, but also I offer free one-to-ones. So I'm just going to pop this.
I love that. I love that you have the free one-to-ones, and I feel like I always have those available too, and I have them available for people that just it doesn't have to be a great big strategy call for me.
No,
It could just be like, I'm going to lose my mind because I feel like I'm running in circles. It could be, I mean, you just don't know what it's going to be, but whatever that is, it's a free service. I feel like it's a service because I'm available to meet whenever, and just we can do a little power hour or however you want to do it, but just connect with people. And maybe, when two people are looking for the milk, you're going to find it. When my husband's looking for it, he's not going to find it, right? And so when you have extra sets of eyes on something, you're able to find solutions a lot faster. Now, I wanted to touch on two things that you said. You were talking about your to-do list, and I was the queen of to-do lists. Like, I had to check everything off before I could go to bed kind of girl. And then I recently learned about having a not to-do list. I really kind of like that better. Like, I'm not going to stress out whether I don't get it all completed. I'm not going to hold myself to this high standard, things that you're not going to do. I'm not going to feel like I'm obligated to everybody else. I'm going to do what feels right to me, right? And then the accountability. Now, I did this crazy thing probably a month ago. I joined an accountability group. Well, and it was, I never heard of such a thing, but I mean, I've heard of an accountability group, but this one's just obscene. So 5 o'clock in the morning, and we meet, and you have to tell your win from the day before, and 3 things you're going to accomplish that day. And everybody goes through and does this. There's probably between 17 and 25 people on there each day, right? And then 3 things you're going to accomplish that day. And then at the very end, if anybody has a need, you could put it out there and share your need. And it's so interesting because it's not always business related. Last week, we had a lady who needed better shoes that were more comfortable for walking, because she was going to be doing a lot of walking with her business. And so a lot of the women were able to say, try this brand or this brand. That was really nice. But sometimes you just need a boost on your post or something, and you can share that. Now, they meet at 5 a.m. I think I'm the only one. It's 5 a.m. I think everybody else is staying, and it's 6 a.m. for them. But it's 5 for me, and I don't believe in doing things half-ass. And so they were saying, just roll out of bed and turn on your phone. And I'm like, no, I don't show up like that. And if I'm going to get up that early, I want to be able to be ready to continue working. I'm going to get up and come through the home to my office. I want to sit here and just be able to continue working. So I actually get up at 4:20 so that I can be up and showered and ready for my day. And I think I'm the only one on the call. Oh, there's 2 men that are there that are ready for their day also. But all the women, none of the other women are ready for their day. But I really like that. And I think that I would like to create another one just for friends I have that I know need that kind of accountability. It's just like, be on the call, check in, tell us what your win was. That fixes your mindset straight away. And then tell us the 3 things that you're aiming to accomplish that day. That also starts you off with clarity. You go running out the door knowing what you're going to do. It does take a little prep. I come in the night before and set up my virtual screen and make sure my desk is ready and have thought about what my wins are. But that also helps your mindset if you're thinking about it the night before, what your win was, and then what 3 things you set to accomplish the next day. So that's been very helpful.
Yeah. We do that in one of the groups that I'm in, but we do it weekly. So it's like 5 things that you're going to achieve in this week. And then we do that on the Monday. And then on the Friday, we check back in. When we start, well, I started it. When I started it and it's in my business, there were probably about 120 that were starting it, and like everything, it's dropped off and it's dropped off, and I think we're down to about 45 this morning. So they'll come in and they'll give 5 things. Most people will get to 4. They may not get to 5, but at least they'd have done 3. So the aim is for them to give me 5 but do 3, and that's the way that we work. They don't know that, but I do. So
Right, but that's the same as when you set things for your children when you're raising children. You know, I set the bar way here.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm happy if they met it here, but they didn't know that.
Yeah. And the reason I changed it that way is because when people were not achieving too much, then they felt they'd failed. So, you know, I go back and re-acknowledge that 3 are good, and, you know, let's work on the other 2. And then then the next week they'll set themselves 4, and then they'll reach the 4. So it's that, you know, positive mindset that they'll reach what they need to go and get to. So I think that as coaches and as strategists, what we can do is work with the individual to see what their benefits are of what they need, because some of my clients are, you know, they're kicking it out the park. You know, they really are sort of like, you know, pushing all the time. But I've got others that are really slow burners, that they need to just, you know, be that sort of soft, gentle approach. And once they find out how they work and how they, you know, how they can move their business forward, then what happens is that they then start to sort of like, you know, pick up that momentum, and then they run. But if they go too quickly at the beginning, then they'll fall and they won't pick up again. So it's about having that mindset to know which way to push.
And that makes sense to me, because I feel like sometimes people need a clear path moving forward. You know, for a while people were saying, just around on the internet, just start. It doesn't matter if you start messy, just start. And for me, that never felt right. Like I wanted organized, and I wanted to present it well, the same as I would a brick and mortar business. When I owned all my brick and mortar businesses, I wouldn't open while I'm still under construction.
Yeah.
You wait and get everything done and then open. And so that works for me. Now, one of the things you said, you do meditation, and I don't know that I do meditation so much. I do grounding work.
Yeah.
And so
it's a very similar thing. The meditation that I'm talking about is not deep, so it's more grounding, but it's just recognizing how you can ground, because most people are flying on the, you know, the reaction of, they're responding, they're not aligning, they're responding to, you know, everything that goes on. You know, are they going to be late? They're always rushing. But I remember I'm in London, in the UK, we rush everywhere.
That's funny. I try not to ever rush. I try not to ever rush, but I get up each morning and go barefoot outside in the grass. And sometimes it's just contemplation and, you know, maybe saying my prayers or visiting about my day, or more of a meditation thing. Yesterday, oddly enough, was Sunday, and I was just out barefoot and observing my flower gardens and realizing I needed to weed some of them. So I weeded them out there. But the connection with the energy level, and I'm not woo-woo, by the way, but the connection, there's a real connection when your feet are on ground. Yeah. Actual ground, not cement, not gravel, but actual dirt, grass. And there's a real connection when you're skinned to that. That's calming for me. And I don't know that it has the same effect for everybody else, but for me, it's very calm and clarifying for me. And I feel like I have a much better day, and it's easier for me to navigate my day when I've done my grounding.
Yeah, I agree. So again, for me, it's that those, you know, reinforced positive thoughts at the beginning of the day, whether we call it meditation or whether we just call it some space to think, you know, get up, have your shower, you know, start processing your day. And as you said, at 5 in the morning, you're writing your list. Mine's a list. A physical list, because I like that, you know, positivity of crossing things off. I don't have a list for each day. I might have a list for a week, but, you know, by the end of the week, it's done, or it's been moved forward somewhat. But without checking in the mornings with myself and making sure that I'm okay, I know that I'm not going to be able to move forward. So I think that possibly the meditation I'm talking about is more of a grounding in that sense, because it's not it's not woo woo, as we've just said. You're not going to start. I wouldn't start chanting or anything like that. It's just really just clearing my mind so that I know what my purpose is for that day, and then if anything gets pulled in the way, as it does, then I'm able to respond to it without panic. And that's what I do. So,
Sarah, do you have any routines that you do that help your day align better?
Yes. So while I'm still in bed when I wake up, I think of something that I'm grateful for in my life, whatever it is. And I have a self-image script, so I do the teachings by Bob Proctor, and I know where I want to be. I know who I want to be. I know I have work to do, and that really lights me up. I'm very excited about getting there. And so there's no doubt why I do the work I do. And I'm always excited to get up in the morning and start my day. I love mornings. I love beginnings. I love, new things. And I feel that that helps my mindset a lot. Um,
mhm.
my unwavering faith starts to waver after lunch. So, I kind of have to remind myself, but mornings are really exciting times for me. So, and I practice gratitude a lot. And I like woo woo, so it's fine. That's kind of
Well,
what
I
I do.
think too that the gratitude plays a huge part in it too, because just your mindset, if you focus on the positive, and that's just a proven thing, if you focus on the positive, then you draw positive to you. Just like if you focus on the negative, you draw that to you. So the gratitude is a huge part of building any business or any relationship, I feel like.
Mm. Yeah, I
even
agree.
even life, I feel that if you're always focusing on what you don't have, what you haven't achieved, what is hard, it's worst. I mean, just go with the positive, I think.
I think so too. And I take when I noticed that, I get up quite early, but I noticed that usually around 3 or so, I start to fade off. Like I'm just not as on fire. And I love what I do, but I'm not as on fire at 3 in the afternoon. And so I try to save tasks that I can put that are easy to do. They don't have to engage too much in. I don't have to think too much about. I try to put those towards the end of my day so
Mhm.
that I'm reserving my very best energy for my interactions with people
Yeah.
and for problem solving, helping my clients, things like that.
Mhm.
And I just want to say that to your point, I usually used to get up and go for my walk. I walk for like an hour and a half. It depends what was it like. And because my unwavering faith starts to waver after lunch, I have now switched and go on my walk at that time. So I get really energized again when I come back. I'm really excited. I was outside at the beach or in the forest, and I'm really excited to start again to continue that work. So that works for me.
Mhm.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Do you have anything else that you want to share with us, Debbie?
I believe no. I think that we've covered quite a bit
I
here.
wanted to look in the chat and see.
There's no chat. I've just popped in my the
Well, I
link.
wanted to, so the top one is going to be your free resource.
The free one is the top, yeah, and then underneath you've got the emergency toolkit, which is I've converted it into dollars. I know that your audience is everywhere, but I thought if sterling and dollars will be fine. And then the meditation bundle. So they're ebooks that will be sent over there. You can print them out or you can use them as a editable PDF. But there's something you can use time and time and time again. You can reuse it as much as you wanted to. The Confidence Blueprint is obviously the one to start with because it's free, and then it will lead in. Some people have got all three of them. Some people have taken all three in one go because that's where they want to do, and that they go in, all in. But it's up to you, and it's up to your audience where they want to go. But for me, without a positive mindset, and as you said, Sarah, it's positivity is, you know, something that we need in every factor of our life. And if we don't have it, then we can't function. And if we can be positive for others, then it picks others up and it helps them. So for me, it's a win-win. I like delivering podcasts and training on mindset, because it's something that everybody needs at some point. Everybody needs it. So, you know, I can go and deliver things on HR or, you know, on corporate, you know, finances, but mindset's the one that I enjoy the most. So that's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies. This has been so fun. I will post this in Midlife Women Networking Connection. I'll post it this afternoon, and I will tag you so that you know to add your freebies to it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.
You bet. And everybody that joined us, we would love to have you join us every Monday. And if you're interested in sharing a business that you have, please reach out to me.
Okay. All right. Okay.